How many podcasts do you come across that have the balls to open up and let everything out there? And not only that, but let you say what you want to say. Well, that's why we're here. This is Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit. An open forum where you're part of the show. Real, raw, and nothing is off limits. We do mean nothing. So light it up and let's set this bitch on fire. Truth, lies, and political bullshit. And now your host, Sean Morse.
Hey, Sean Morse, Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit. Thanks for joining my show. I hope you're doing well today. Hey, listen, I want to talk about something that's got to be really alarming to you because I know that it eats away at me. Now that I'm a dad and a grandpa, youth violence is on the top of my radar because I see things today in society that I just can't put my arms around. I mean, look, I grew up in a small city where there was fights all the time, right? And I was in a lot of those fights. You know what happened back then? Somehow you became friends. You picked each other up off the ground, went in and had a beer, or started hanging out the next day. And 40 years later, you're still friends and you talk about getting in a fight. And that's how you met each other, right? Today, they don't become friends. You know why? Because they're killing each other. They have guns and they shoot you right in the middle of the street and they don't give a fuck because it's like they don't have a soul. Something's going on in this country. And I don't know what it is. It's going on all across the country. It's not just in my hometown of Cohoes or in New York State. I mean, it's everywhere. In Florida, we just seen this little girl, and I'm a grandpa of a little girl, right? This little girl gets on the bus. She just starts going to this new school. She's all excited. She gets on the bus, and guess what happens to her? Some fucking punk, 12, 14 years old, beats the living hell out of her. And I'm not talking just like, you grabbed her ponytail or you were picking on her. I'm talking punching her like she's a fucking punching bag and beating the shit out of her. And this little girl is like crying for her mother. I mean, I could feel it in my soul when I watched it on TV. And I know many of you probably already see it, but I got to show it to you because I want you to see it so that you can understand where this podcast is going and what I'm talking about, because it's just the most, look at this shit. I mean, let me play it again. Look at, just beating the shit out of this little girl, and she's scared, and where the fuck are the adults? This little kid is on the bus going to her second week, third week of school in her new school, probably excited, a little nervous. And this is how her day turns out. Somebody just with no soul who could care less. And I don't want to hear, they're only fucking 14, because at 14, you know enough not to stick your fucking hand on the stove because it will burn you, right? You know enough not to jump in the pool if you can't swim. You don't run out and stand there going like this in front of cars. They're not stupid. They knew they were beating up this little girl and hurting her. And the question is why? Where is the soul in people today? What have we lost? I've seen violent fights. I was in violent fights, man. You fought to hurt the guy. You did. That's how you fight. But you cared about him afterwards. You didn't want to, kill him. You wanted to say, I'm tougher than you. Get up. Let's be friends. Let's go hang out. And let's be lifelong friends. I won the fight. Yay, I'm the toughest guy. But today, 14 years old, 12 years old, picking on little girls like that and beating them up. Where the fuck is the adults? Where was the bus driver? Why didn't somebody stop? You know why? Because they're petrified. They're petrified that these kids will shoot them or that their parents will jump on the bus and beat them up because they intervened somehow. Or they're petrified they'll lose their job if they touch somebody who's beating the shit out of a little girl. You can't figure it out. It is a mess. You can't understand it. Woke culture, cancel culture, violent culture. Politicians who should be protecting those who are most vulnerable, passing laws that screw the person who is vulnerable and protect the people beating the shit out of the little girl or breaking into your house or shooting your fucking kids. It seems like the world is backwards. Maybe it's just me. Maybe because I'm older, I sit back now and say, what the fuck is going on here? I can't understand. because it wasn't like that when I was a kid. And maybe every generation says the same thing, right? Elvis was moving his pelvis and they thought the world was caving in back then. But, today, the violence it's heartbreaking. You go to Chicago, they're killing each other like they're like it doesn't even matter. Like they're desensitized. Like the soul of a human doesn't matter. When I was a kid and I looked at people, I understood they were people. And even when I got in fights and I hurt them, I felt bad. I didn't want to hurt them that bad. I just wanted to win the fight, right? I wanted to impress the girl, or I wanted people to think, oh, he's the toughest guy around. But that's a lot different than having the ability, because I didn't have that ability. And I imagine you didn't have the ability to pick up a gun, shoot somebody in the middle of the day, right in the face, boom, kill them, fall to the ground. They're dead. They're dead. And you just walk away and go home and play your Xbox like it didn't matter. That's the kind of violence we have in the world today. And I don't have any idea how to fix it. I'm not no psychologist. I'm not a sociologist. I'm a retired fireman doing a podcast with a fake wall behind me in my kitchen fucking table, trying to just figure out the world and share the news with you and let you hear what I have to say, whether you want to hear it or not. If you don't, you turn it off. If you do, you listen, you subscribe, you become part of my YouTube channel, and we have these conversations, because I want to have conversations that are real and raw, and not fake and predetermined in what I'm going to say. Half the time I stutter because I don't even know what the fuck I want to say, because my mind is racing, and my old voice and my mouth doesn't go fast enough anymore. But what I do know is this: if you have this much of a soul, if you are a human being, even this much of a good person, you have to be sickened by the world that we're living in today. You have to be appalled by the crimes that we see and the politicians who support those crimes. What are you doing here? I don't get it. And if you have any love and respect at all for our police, because we need police, man. We need to have people who have our back. We need to know that we can walk down the street at night and somebody's not going to shoot and kill us. We need to know that, the cops are only a couple streets away from your house, and that if something happens, they can rush to your save you, rush to your house and protect you. I mean, I know that they're not Superman or Superwoman, but we need them, and we need to respect them. And when I see kids today, they don't respect them. I mean, I turn on the news and they're pouring water over buckets of fucking water over the police head, over their heads. I see them spitting at the cops. I hear them calling them names. The cop says, "Can I have your name?" They go, "Fuck you, you can't have my name." What is wrong with people? And then you wonder why cops, who are under such an enormous amount of pressure by asshole politicians who all want to pretend that they're the moral fucking compass of the world, so they pass all these laws and put all these police in a position where if you look at somebody the wrong way, they want to have you put in jail. They want to have your badge. They want to take away your job so you can't feed your family. And somehow they go, "Oh, that's what we do. We're politicians." No, they're scums of the earth. I was a politician. I fought against those bastards. Believe me, they beat the shit out of me. I took a beating most people will never understand. And it was a terrible beating by a lot of people that I mouthed off to and I ran against, and I told them they were fucking assholes, because I didn't want to be a politician. I want to fix problems. I want to govern. I think I did a good job at it. But boy, you know what? I didn't change my skin. I was a kid from the projects. I became a firefighter. I seen all the bullshit in the world and all death and the worst of society. And after a while, you just build up this immunity to it. But you're not going to take shit and kiss ass to politicians. And that's what's happening. Politicians are ruining the world. They're ruining the country. They are putting people in positions where they're going to constantly see cops getting hurt, cops afraid to help anybody, young kids thinking that they have this armor on them because we can't arrest them no more. We passed these laws in New York State, raise the age. What is raise the age, really? It means that if you're 16 or 17, you go outside and you fucking shoot somebody, or you're dealing drugs, or you're dealing fentanyl and somebody dies, or you're robbing cars, or whatever violent, you're burning people's houses down, you're an arsonist, whatever, you're going to be sent to family court. And family court has great judges overwhelmed with the cesspool of fucking problems that we have in the American family today, right? We all have them. I'm there. I understand better than most, right? Politician who was fucking destroyed, a person who's been through the addiction in families. I've seen it. I felt it. I get it, you know, but passing laws that let people be so violent in New York State, and then, it spreads like wildfire because they're all a bunch of fucking monkeys, right? We should march them over the cliff. They'd all start falling off, and we could replace them with people who have common sense and who have critical thinking, who can just look out the picture window of their house and go, this isn't good. This ain't right. These politicians are allowing these young kids to become animals with no soul, because we teach them that it's okay to do these things because there's no price to pay. Back in the day, my mother was 4'11", little redhead, fiery little redhead, and I was a fucking wise guy, right? But when I came home, I tried not to be a wise guy because I was petrified of my mother. She'd take a belt and whack me across the fucking leg so hard that my whole head would go numb. Forget about just my leg. And we had these wooden spoons and a wooden fork. How many of you are 50 years old and you had the wooden spoon and the wooden fork hanging in your kitchen, right? I'd come home if I was missing for like 6 hours because I never called my mother. She'd take that fucking wooden spoon and she'd whack me across the ass so hard that my whole body would go numb. And I remember one time I said, don't you ever fucking hit me again. And she took a shoe and whacked it across my head. Poof, I had a bloody nose, bleeding all over the place. But I was petrified of my mother. I didn't want to let my mother down or my dad down. I didn't want to disrespect them. Every time I got in trouble, and I got in trouble, I was a fighter. I was always getting in fights. I felt guilty. And if you hurt somebody, you felt guilty. But at the same time, I dedicated all my time to the local community center. I dedicated my time to work in bingo and, helping kids that were less fortunate. So, we were different back then because we still had respect. We still understood the value of mom and dad and the value of human life. And we were outside all the time playing sports or doing other shit. Today, these kids sit home playing violent games, shooting each other. And it's almost like they become transfixed and thinking that that's how life is. Like, it's okay, just shoot somebody and kill them, and it doesn't matter. And I'll tell you what I see on Facebook a lot. You're seeing a lot of kids dying so young from overdoses and violence and gun violence. And what do you see when that happens? On Facebook, you see all these posts, kids with their hands up and pouring a beer over the picture of the grave and saying, so well, buddy, see you in the end. And I mean, they're talking to them like it's, oh, well, that's the norm. People die every day. That's the norm. When I was a kid, when you died, it was like, holy shit, somebody died. Today, it's like, holy shit, somebody didn't die today. It's backwards. And what do we do? How do we fix this problem? How does society get fixed? I don't have the answers. I'm not saying that this podcast is going to give you answers, right? But what I'm going to tell you is this. We've passed too many laws that go against the good person. We've passed too many laws that protect the bad person. We want to pretend that the world is a racist place and that, white people are the fucking root of all evil. And we're teaching that to our kids in schools. And then we're so concerned about gender identity that that's more important than reading, writing, and arithmetic to a kid that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And we have corporations that are investing millions of dollars, not in trying to figure out how to solve problems, but to support these organizations like Black Lives Matter. Hey, listen, I'm not going to argue about Black Lives Matter because I am a former fireman who believes that every human life matters. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. God is my savior, right? I am all of that. I'm still nuts as a fuck as well, but I believe that every human being matters. And to start supporting organizations that use the, acronym that Black Lives Matters, when the fact is black kids are killing each other in Chicago like it's a fucking third world country, and you don't find any of them in Chicago using the millions and millions of dollars that they generated from woke corporations who are just trying to say, oh, see, we're good corporations, not that we're just, destroying the country. But look, we're good people and we're going to give you all this fucking money. And where'd the money go? Did it go to community centers, prevention? Where did it go? It went to their fucking pocket, and they're building $5 million mansions and taking $1 million a year paychecks. Now, I don't have all those numbers, right? I may be exaggerating to some point, but there were millions of dollars in properties and hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries and stuff that was just being used for a small group of people who started those organizations. Do I believe there's believers that join them on the grassroots level? Absolutely. Do they believe that Black Lives Matter and that somehow our black kids are being treated differently? I think they do believe that. Do I believe that? I don't. I believe that people from all walks of life are treated differently, right? If you're poor, you're treated differently by the rich people. When I was in school, I had holes in my fucking sneakers. You'd be laughed at by the kids who owned houses on the hill, and we lived in the projects, right? Unfortunately, if you're not the most attractive person in the world, they make fun of you and you get picked on. If you're fat, they pick on you. If you're too skinny, they pick on you. If you're black, Chinese, if you got slanted eyes like me, they pick on you. The world is full of mean people. But do I think the United States of America is some kind of a racist country that systemically we just are born and bred to be racist? Nah, bullshit. I don't buy it. We had a black president, and how many percentage of people that are black vote? That would never happen if white people didn't understand and respect and elect a president based on what we believed he could do for a country as a whole. We need to be united as a country. We are so divided. Media has divided us. People are taking advantage of being a person of color, saying, hey, we need to have all of this given to us because we're black. I don't buy it. I was white, poor, fat, and holes in my shoes. I got discriminated just like everybody else. And you know what? I didn't own a slave. And many of the people who want these reparations of hundreds of thousands of dollars because somehow that's supposed to cure the problem that happened to their grandparents 150, 60 years ago. Come on. It's another way to divide the country. And our kids are seeing all of this. Our kids are living in this world where you can spit a hawker at your fucking school teacher and nobody will do nothing because, oh my God, we can't say nothing to the kid. We can't discipline them. Parents can't spank their kids because CPS will come. A 22-year-old fucking kid will come to your house and say, we're taking your kid away because you spanked them. You know, we can't do anything because society is building up all of these fucking rules and regulations to protect the kids who are the troubled kids and go after the people who are trying to prevent the trouble. Let's just take a look at the New York State laws, right? Raise the age. I just talked about it. So now basically all these violent people, drug dealers, fucking murderers, whatever, can go to these young kids, and they do go to these young kids. Don't think they don't. And they basically say, you do all these bad things, don't worry about it. The worst you can do is get down to that family court. And as I said, family court is overwhelmed with the cesspool of fucking issues that we have in the American family and in the youth crime system. These judges are overwhelmed. I don't even know how they get through a day without putting their heads in their hands and crying or going home and being a fucking alcoholic or whatever, because it is just the pressure. And all we've done is just overwhelmed it more because these nitwit legislators in New York State just keep passing these laws. So raise the age. You just go ahead, do whatever you want. Bash the fucking guy over the head when you rob his house with a baseball bat, and you may go into juvenile detention for a week or two, but we'll let you out because society can't do these things against you poor young kids. And so raise the age has been one of the worst things to invoke young kids to become violent. And then we have, the no cash bail. Basically, it's just a free-for-all. Maybe we try to do things with good intentions. Hell's paved with good intentions, right? The way the path to hell is paved with good intentions. But good intentions need to really be thought out because they end up being really poor laws. Good intentions become poor laws. And great example with this cash bail that was supposed to be, because I'm poor and I do something, I got to sit in jail, and because you're rich, you can get yourself out. Well, let me first fucking tell you, honestly, people that are very rich who are going to jail usually ain't taking a gun down the middle of the street and shooting up a bunch of fucking people, right? Or selling drugs in alleyways. They're doing other crimes. And look, at crime is crime, and the law's the law. I know I paid a heavy price for shit that I don't believe that I should have, but that's the world we live in, right? We have to follow the rules. And unfortunately, in today's society, we make up the rules when we want to go after somebody. And usually it's not the bad people, it's the good people. And so we passed this bail reform. And we have seen the devastation with young kids and older people, violent people. You could be standing at a subway in New York City, they bash you over the fucking head with a baseball bat. You're waiting for the subway, they push you in front of the subway car. You know, you're walking down the street, they just punch your grandmother in the fucking mouth, 80 years old, beating the shit out of her. They go after homeless people. We've created a world of animals that have no fucking leashes, and they're just running wild. And then you step back and say, who did that? Who's caused these fucking problems? Well, hey, the problems were caused by the New York State Legislature, the John McDonalds, the Neil Breslins, these fucking people like Alicia Handman, and I'm going to talk about this fucking moron in a few minutes. But it's these people, because you know what they do every day? They try to figure out, okay, if I own this pocket of voters, because they're always going to vote for me, that's my pool. You know, I got to strengthen my electability. Let me use that word, my electability, because somebody may run against me and this pool may not be big enough. So let me go over here and try to get this pool. How do I get this pool? I don't know. Let's say we're going to raise the age and tell all these mothers who ain't raising their fucking kids that they should get out and vote, because if they don't vote, their kids will be put away and they'll go to jail for the rest of their lives because they'll be prosecuted by guys like this guy over here who's a prosecutor who wants to put your kid in as an adult because, you know, he didn't do nothing really wrong. He only fucking banged some kid over the head with a hammer and then ran him over with a car. But that won't happen with me, so vote for me. So they look for pockets of people. We're a pluralist society. We're always looking for pockets of people that we can somehow get into that group, have them like me, pass a few laws that help them, and strengthen my electability. That's what it's all about, my friends. It ain't about nothing else. I've said in those rooms, I said in the back rooms, I've watched these fucking people. I watched them talk about destroying somebody's life. I watched them say, let's go send a letter to the guy's wife and say he's screwing around on her because he wants to run for a small little fucking office in the middle of some town. And I say, are you out of your mind? What is wrong with you? I mean, this is how crazy politics is locally. It's a bunch of maniacs, people that would, you know, I use this phrase, a lot of people use the phrase, they wouldn't get picked in gym class. They were fucking nerds. They were morons, right? Some of them weren't. Some of them were as bright as could be, but you know what? Nobody hung out with them because they were the smart kids or whatever reason. They got into politics because they become powerful. They become powerful. And you say, how does that guy get elected? How does that fucking nerd get elected? How does that asshole get elected? He gets elected because, you know, they go to these pockets of people and they pass rules and laws for them. They make policies for them. They help them. And then when it's time to vote, they go, oh, that guy helped me. That guy helped me. Well, you also helped your fucking neighbor's son get hit by a bus and the kid didn't even go to jail. He was out an hour later because, you know, they passed the law that it was okay to be high on fucking drugs, steal a bus, run a kid over it, and then the kid gets a free pass. But they don't care about that. You know, there was a study done, and it was about the state legislature, and it had like a 20% favorability. I mean, you couldn't get any lower unless you're in fucking hell, right? And but the moral of the story was everybody said, I hate the legislature. They're no good, except for my guy. I like my guy. So you like the guy that's in there because he's done something for you. But when you do that collectively, guess what you end up with? You end up with the cesspool that we have called the New York State Legislature, the New York State Senate, and we have kids who are now running wild because they passed laws that protect them. We have the innocent people afraid to do anything because they'll lose their job, their whole livelihood, their reputation. We'll attack them. We'll go after them. We'll woke them to death. We'll cancel them to death because they say something that's honest and true, like I'm trying to do right now, the fucking honest opinion. If you're honest today, you get penalized. And that's just the reality. So we see all this youth violence. We see all these laws passed that protect the criminal. And now we're starting to see laws that are going after the police. And I've never been more sickened to my stomach than to see this lady, Alicia Handman. Now, I don't know her. She's from the Queens. But what a fucking quiff that she is, right? This lady now says that cops are so bad that they have to carry their own insurance so that if they get in trouble and beat somebody up or do something wrong, that they have liability insurance. Yeah, let's tell the cops that they have to take this job, deal with the cesspool of fucking problems every day, go out there every day and see the worst of the world, harbor all this, sadness and disgust and loneliness and everything else that comes with being the guy that we entrust to, protect the world from all the fucking problems. Have them deal with the same people over and over because we just keep letting them out of jail an hour after they do something bad. Can you imagine the pressure of these cops? Listen, I am not defending a bad cop. I'm not. I worked as a firefighter. I was on thousands of calls with cops. For the most part, I found them all to be pretty cool, man. I really did. I've watched them in situations where I would have fucking punched somebody upside the head and I would have been in jail and I'd have lost my job. But they were trained to keep their cool. But my God, it's not easy when somebody's this close to your face spitting at you, calling you fucking names. You ask them to turn around and put the handcuffs on because they're doing something illegal. They tell you to go fuck themselves. They start running. They start threatening your family. I mean, it's every single day, day after day after day after day. Can you imagine having to live in that position and not have anybody have your back? That you turn to people and say, man, you got to understand, I'm out here every day in the streets watching these young kids kill each other. The violence is unbelievable. I got kids. It weighs heavy on my heart. I'm watching people overdose in the middle of the fucking streets. Just before I retired, I was bringing people back who died in the streets 3 times in a day. You would think once you died once, that would be enough. If God said you could come back, you would fucking learn your lesson. I remember bringing a kid back from the death. He was dead. I don't know what he was seeing in his death, but he was dead. And a couple hours later, after we brought him back, Narcaned him up, he was dead again. And they brought him back again. How many fucking times can you see that over and over and over and not think it affects you? Our cops are out there trying to save young kids' lives. I'm going to tell you something. There's nothing more fucking heartbreaking than to pull up and seeing a puddle of blood and a fucking kid's brain shot out. And you're standing there thinking, man, I don't get it. I don't get it. Because I've seen it. And it does something to you over and over and over again. And the cops are trying to stop it from happening. And these assholes in the state legislature continue to just put them in the position where they can't do anything about it. And if you don't think that weighs heavy on their head, on their heart and in their head, you're fucking missing the point. And I'm going to tell you something. Even the bad cops, some of them are just bad people. I don't give a shit. You give a guy a gun, you give him a badge, you tell him that he's the savior of the country. He's got to go out there with that power sometimes and use it the wrong way. And those people don't deserve to be police officers. Maybe they're better off suited to go to fucking Afghanistan and go to war and be killing machines, right? But police have to have patience, and they have to have a heart, and they have to be able to look at situations and digest them and say, this is just a broken person, man. I don't want to fucking arrest them and have to handcuff them and pepper spray them. The people that have that happen, for the most part, there's millions of arrests. It doesn't just happen like there's 10 arrests a year and 3 people got beat up or pepper sprayed. No, there's millions, and the cops are forced to deal with these millions. And most of them are young, wise punks, again, that have been taught that it's okay to shoot and kill you, and they have no home life, and there's no fucking spiritual life, and nobody loves them, and nobody's, divorce, I think, is surpassed marriage. Grandmoms, I know grandmas and grandpas are raising kids at 80 years old. What do you expect? They're going to stay up all night, and they're going to be able to go out there and stop them kids from getting involved in drugs and guns, and it's a cesspool of problems, and nobody has the answers. But the answers can't be that we start picking on the cops. The answers can't be that we start passing laws to protect the criminal. Somehow we think that fixes the problem. I mean, in California, basically, bullshit. You don't have to go hungry. You don't have to be homeless or go hungry in California, because you could go in a fucking Walmart, steal $900 worth of groceries, and they let you walk out because there's nobody going to prosecute them, right? And then they take the groceries, go sell them down the street. Now you have money to pay your fucking rent. But no, they're buying drugs instead. But that's okay too, because we just let them put a tent up and do all the fucking drugs right there in the middle of the street where little kids are walking by to go to school. And the little kid looks over and you think, what? You don't think that they think in their head as they grow up that this is the norm? It's problematic on every level. So we have these young kids killing each other. We have mental illness running the streets like you've never seen before. And now we have an attack on our cops, right? Listen, if you went to Tennessee and you're a cop, you're patrolling the most violent, deadliest place, I think, in America. And I'll stand corrected. But the last time I looked, it was a place where violence supersedes any other crime, and it's the number one crime. And then it supersedes violent crime in every other country. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's the number one fucking rated crime place, and these cops are trying to live it and deal with it, with all the asshole politicians trying to screw them at every turn and take away their badge, and then they won't have the money to feed their families. Yeah, we've seen some bad shit. We've seen cops kill somebody. And just like everybody else I talked about today, they should be prosecuted. And the justice system should work the way it's supposed to work. They should be arrested and put in jail just like anybody else who murders somebody, because it's an egregious act. It's sickening. And I don't want to hear that it's racist, right? They're all black. For the first time, it was black on black, and they're still trying to figure out how to make black on black racist because it doesn't fit the fucking narrative. You don't hear it on the media, right? You're not seeing it on CNN, and you're not seeing it on MSNBC, or you're not seeing it anywhere. Coffee Joe, or whatever the fuck his name is, you're not seeing it there. You're not seeing it anywhere. I don't even see it on Fox. And I watch every channel because I want to be a guy that says, I heard all of the sides, I'll draw my own conclusion. So I watch about 30 minutes of each news channel. I try to read every newspaper that I can, because everybody's got a different political view, personal view, and everybody's slanting it the way they need to slant it so that they can make all the money they can from the people who are paying for their ads. So the news media is the fucking root of all evil. It's the devil, and you'll never get the true story if you don't spend a lot of time trying to find it. But these cops, they deserve to be in prison. But you're not hearing it because it really doesn't meet the narrative. It wasn't a white cop killing a black guy, and that would be on the news for 6 months, and they'd be pounding it every day of how racist we are. And again, I don't buy it, man. It's bad people doing bad things. And just because they have a badge don't mean they're not bad people. There's bad cops, firemen, doctors, teachers, fucking lawyers, judges. There's bad people in every walk of life. It is what it is. Does it have to stop? Absolutely. Do we have to hold them to a higher standard? Maybe we should. Just like we should say if you kill a fucking cop, you should be put to death. Maybe cops should be put in a position that if they kill somebody right there on a camera, where you witness it, they have to have a higher standard of prosecution. I mean, I don't know. How do you stop it from happening? I know that if you take laws and you throw them out the fucking window and there's no consequences, then why do you think people are going to be worried? And that's what we're seeing here in New York State and in California and Chicago. We've taken the laws that were to protect the innocent, we've threw them away, and now the criminal says, I don't give a fuck. I'll walk up to your grandmother, punch in her face, steal her pocketbook. I'm not going to jail. What common sense is that? Who in their right mind believes that's the way to fix fucking crime? All in the name of social justice. Fuck social justice, because that in itself is a crime. Social justice is a bunch of people making a bunch of fucking money off using social issues. And everybody who's got an argument in the game, believe me, are making money. People who are fighting about bail reform are making money from the government to fight for injustices against people who are poor. And the bail bondsman is fighting for the fucking guy who should have to pay the bond. And the drug companies are fighting to make you take their drugs. And the fucking people, when you get in trouble and you have to go to counseling because the judge says, instead of going to jail, we're going to put you in counseling, they're making millions because they're the ones that your insurance company pays. So when somebody goes, all right, we're going to make some changes. Somebody's going to be affected. I'm going to tell you a little story. I was one of those guys. I said, look, I'm tired of just fucking trying to spend good money and chase bad problems, right? We were a county government. That's where I was working in the county government at the time. They're the social safety network in New York State. So they're, overseeing the money that the state allocates for drug abuse and, alcoholism and all these other problems that we have in this world. So the issue was whether we should keep spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on drug rehabilitation for people who just relapse over and over and over and over and over again. And after the 20th time and, $250 million with a 6%, I think that was the number of success rate, I said, time out. Maybe we have to draw a line in the sand. Maybe this ain't the right idea. Maybe I was wrong. But I had to throw out an idea because I was seeing kid after kid, young kid after young kid, just fall into that same cesspool and getting in trouble and having nobody to help them, nobody to care about them, nobody to love them, no place to go and work off their energy. Instead, they were shooting and killing, and it was just blowing up my mind. So I said, let's start talking about prevention. Because maybe prevention's the answer, right? Maybe somebody a long time ago was really smart and said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of gold. Maybe they were smart. So why don't we invest some of this money into preventions? Let's go back like we did in the 70s when there was federal funds, and let's fund it from the county level and fund our community centers. And let's have mentors and let's have, fucking swimming lessons and basketball and baseball lessons and arts and craft and music or whatever you could bring as many kids as possible into this, community centers throughout the capital region, so that we can keep them off the streets and let them know people love them and give them an opportunity to succeed. Let's help them with their education. Let's help them after school with their homework. Let's praise them for the good things they do. Let's explain to them the consequences of the bad things. And you know who attacked me? I was attacked by the companies that made the millions to keep housing you into the drug rehabilitation programs over and fucking over and over and over again. Shocked, right? I was shocked at the people who make millions off the government. So because you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, don't want to cut them funds because then they lose money. And the amount of money some of them are making, high six figures, some of them $200,000 a year. I just said, oh my God. Now listen, I'm not saying that they're not vital. I really ain't. They are vital. I've seen people turn their lives around. Hallelujah, man, I have. And I prayed to God for them, and I believed in those programs because I seen the success. But I also seen that it's far and few between for many people because they weren't going there because they felt like they hit rock bottom in life. They were going there because they were forced to go. They were forced to go to these programs by the courts. So they just went so they didn't go to jail, and they didn't care. And the money would just fly out the window. And somewhere along that line, there was a young kid who was on the fence, right? Should I sell drugs? I'm broke. My mom don't have a lot of money. Should I sell the drug? What should I do? Who do I turn to? And there was nobody there to mentor them. And when I was a kid, John Domel, Joe Lutz, Robert Gully, people from my community center, they saved me. They said, hey, come here, have fun, learn to swim, learn to play baseball. Let me just teach you how to play pool. Let's play darts. Whatever it was. Come to summer camp. Have a place to go. Find some constructive shit to keep you busy. And it worked. And I seen so many kids who were just about to step off the cliff get pulled back. But you know what? I was attacked. I was fucking attacked like you thought I was stealing their child. So that's the problem that we face in the world, right? We don't have all the solutions, but we have all of these organizations that are making money off all the problems. And you're going to have to face that. That's not going to change. And that's why we have shitty politicians, because they cater to all those organizations rather than catering to the real problem and the real needs. Because the people who have the real problem, the real needs are young kids who are as violent today as ever before, that are constantly finding themselves in trouble. Nobody to turn to. They don't have money. They can't even vote. So why the hell do we care about them? That's the problem that you face. And every once in a while, they'll throw a bone to somebody, right? And, and say, look what we did to save all these young kids. They're full of shit. Unless you can vote, unless you have millions of dollars and your organization is funnel it into their campaigns, you're going to have what you have today. You're going to have district attorneys that don't prosecute. You know, I was from Albany County, David Soares. He is still the district attorney. And when he first became the district attorney, I thought, you know, he was a social worker. And I thought there was a place for that, right? I thought there was a place for the guy who will prosecute when he needs to, and the social worker realizes that the poor kid who just needs a helping hand because he doesn't belong in jail, and look for alternative programs. But even he now has realized that the laws that we've passed have emboldened kids, and he's come out and said it. And I don't want to speak for David because I really like the guy. I think he's a class act, and we've had our clashes, believe me, you know, but he's a class act, and he really cares. And sometimes you start out caring and you think the right direction is this, and then as you get around long enough, you realize this doesn't work, and you have to have the courage to take a turn. And he recently had the courage. I don't want to say that he had an epiphany like other people said. I think he's always had the desire to help. And sometimes you have to realize that you need to shift your paradigms because the world is changing. And if you don't, you're left behind. And it's the same thing with the criminal justice system. So we have all these kids getting out of jail 6-10 minutes after, I say 6, but because I seen a kid walk in and walk out. I don't even know if it was 6 minutes, but he was in and out quicker than I could ever imagine. But let's just be realistic. Within an hour, for the most part, they're out. Within an hour, they're back on the streets. And here's what's happening. You have gun violence, shootings, having a gun, all these problems, right? And then what happens? We arrest the kids, and an hour later, they're back on the street, and then you find out they're getting shot and fucking killed. You know why? Because the guys that they were having the fight with's out in the street waiting for them. We arrest the other kid because he's got the problem. He gets out of jail, and this guy doesn't know, and he ends up getting shot by the same kid we let out of jail, or vice versa, because the system isn't taking the necessary steps to ensure that bad people are held away from good people where they can't hurt them. The government should only exist to make sure that we're protected and we're not hurt. And I think David Soares now in Albany County is taking a different approach, and I applaud him for that approach. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. I get it. If there wasn't a gun, they'd have to come up with something else. And they would. They really would. And if we don't teach kids, when I was in school, I really believed this. If you took a fucking gun and you spun it on the desk, whoever pointed at it wouldn't even want to touch it. You'd be like, nah, I have no desire. I didn't need a gun. I don't want a gun. What the hell do I got to touch a gun for? Today they have them in their socks, their waistbands, you know, they have them around their neck, they have them everywhere, and they just shoot you. And I think that people are starting to realize that, except for the lawmakers who continue to pass these laws. So now I want to go back to the cops. So the cops out there, and again, I feel bad for some of these guys. The bad ones should be off the job. The ones that hurt people should be arrested. I find that far and few between. But when it does happen, the justice system works, right? See, these cops are going to go to prison for a long, long time, if not the rest of their lives. And that's the way the justice system should work. But you can't look at a few incidents and say, we're going to make every fucking cop carry their own insurance. These bastards are no good. They're out there beating each other up. And if they don't carry their own insurance, they can't be a cop. Well, let me just tell you something, because this is how I fucking think, right? Maybe those people like Alicia or Elisa fucking Handman, I don't even know. I get so angry I can't even pronounce her name. But it's Alicia. No, excuse me. Alicia. All right, 6 fucking times because I'm so aggravated. Alicia Hammond, Assemblywoman, Queens. Maybe she should have to carry fucking insurance because it's her policies that are getting people killed. It's her policies, along with the rest of the morons, that are getting people hit over the head with baseball bats, pushed in front of subway cars, kids fucking shooting each other and getting out of jail 15 minutes later. It's her policies. How about she carrying insurance, and we should be able to sue her and all these assholes who make these laws? Because why are they immune from it? Why does a cop got to carry a fucking a private liability policy in case he does something wrong when it's her and her fucking colleagues that are putting people's lives in danger? I want to sue her. I want to go file a lawsuit right now and say, this woman should be put up in fucking jail for allowing people to hurt my friend or my grandmother or push me in front of the fucking train. Here she is. Why don't she have to carry insurance? She don't give a shit about the cops. She's looking for votes. So she hears that everybody hates cops. Let's go after the cops and let's see if I can get them on my side. Let me tell you something. If you have 5 minutes of time, here's her fucking number. She's in Albany. Here's her address. Here's her phone numbers. Call her up. Tell her she should have insurance, liability insurance, maybe asshole insurance. I don't know if they sell that, but they should start because she is a moron. She is part of the problem. She is not part of any solution. Hope you're writing that down. Hope you're going to call her up and send her an email and tell her that her policies are the ones causing all the problems and the youth violence and the violence that we see on our streets. And the reason the cops are afraid to even fucking arrest anybody because they don't want to lose their jobs because they don't have anybody who has their backs, just like the kids today don't have anybody to love them and care for them and want to help mentor them. Spend their money on the right shit, lady. Let's not spend it on the stupid shit. Your policies are stupid. And you're stupid to even think that cops should have to carry liability insurance and somehow you don't. Maybe we should be able to go after you and sue you and make you carry it. What the fuck? You just took a $32,000 raise. You should have enough money in your pocket to buy some insurance to protect yourself in case we sue you because we got pushed in front of the fucking train in the middle of New York City, or our grandmother got punched in the face walking down the street, or somebody hijacked my car and fucking hit me over the head with a hammer. Maybe we should prosecute you and sue you because you're the problem. Well, that will never happen. I assure you. There's enough laws to protect these fucking clowns. And all we're doing now is trying to pass laws to protect the other dangerous people. Listen, truth, lies, and political bullshit. My name is Sean Morris. I'm just trying to get the message out and speak my mind. I hope that this law fails. I hope you'll call this lady up, Elisa Hammond. Alicia, like Alicia Keys. I keep saying her name wrong because I can't tolerate her. And sometimes I have a bad temper when it comes to looking at these fools and then I don't start thinking straight. I got to use my critical thinking and I got to take a deep fucking breath. But Alicia Hammond, Queens, New York, Assemblywoman. You just seen her number. Call her up, defend the police. We're not defending bad cops. We don't support bad cops. You hurt somebody as a cop, you get arrested, you go to jail. That's the way it should be. Black, white, fucking yellow, red, or whatever other color people we are. We could be the rainbow if you want to. Doesn't matter what color we are, what race, color, creed. Doesn't matter our sexuality. Doesn't matter anything. If we break the law, put people into custody, treat them with respect, ship them off, let the court system figure it out. Right now, the courts are going to let them out because that's what this moron and her lawmakers have done. But at the end of the day, it will change because good people are only going to stand for it so fucking long before we say enough is enough. Just takes a little while because good people are busy with their lives and we're carrying on trying to fucking buy food. We have an economy that's crushing us. We have our retirements that are fading away. We're trying to deal with life. These people deal with fantasy. I'm getting nothing in a raise. What did you get? $1, a dime, a quarter, $2, a nickel? I don't fucking know what you got. You didn't get $32,000 like she did and all of her fucking cronies, right? Passing all these laws. So we're just trying to live. So we get caught up in life. So we don't really focus. Take a moment. Focus. Take a moment to read all of the newspapers. Watch all of the news stations. Gather your own thoughts, use your own brain, use some critical thinking. And then when you go in to vote for somebody, ask yourself, are they better for you? Don't worry if they did something nice for you, right? People do, I buy you coffee. Does that mean I should do open heart surgery on you? No, they're affecting your life in a negative way. Thanks for the coffee. Thanks for being nice to me. But at the end of the day, you're still nice and I'll be nice to you, but I'm voting you out of fucking office. First, because you stole $32,000 in a raise. And secondly, you put our youth and our country in harm's way. Because what you do in New York, all the other morons follow. And next thing you know, it's across the whole country. Our state is in peril. We have a lot of problems. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the healthcare workers and another stupid policy that has required hundreds, well, I shouldn't even say hundreds, 80,000 home and hospital care workers, doctors' offices. I should just use the general term, healthcare workers. We got notice in our city that it's an 18-hour wait to get into the fucking emergency room to be triaged because of the crises we see with the lack of healthcare workers. But we're going to talk about that because you're going to be shocked to find out how many of them are sitting home, can't get into to their job because we're stopping them over the fucking vaccination that no longer has to happen. But hey, Sean Morris, Truth, Lies, Political Bullshit. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please like me and subscribe to my channel, and let's have some frank conversations and talk about what's really going on out there in the country and across the world, from the little city to the big city.
Bullshit. Sick and tired of all the stuffy podcasts? We wanted to create something real, something raw, where there are no limits. Sean has held political office for 20 years, been a professional firefighter, and been through hell and back. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. See you next time on Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit.